Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome in.
Thank you for coming. Yeah. Yay.
Hi. Congratulations!
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you for joining us. This is so
Thanks,
exciting.
Donna, for coming. Appreciate
I
it.
know, on my birthday, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
happy birthday.
Well, there's nowhere better to be on a birthday than a celebration of love. That's what I think.
We're gonna mute everybody and we're gonna just get started here.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna open it up for
Yeah,
questions
later, a
and
little bit
a
later.
little bit later. So
Yeah.
so it's 8 o'clock Eastern time, and we're
Yeah.
muting everybody.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and welcome.
And we've even seen people that have bought the book already that are showing up. This is totally cool. This is totally cool. So thank you all for showing up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the reason we're here is to launch our new book, Big Fat Love, the Love
Yay.
of Possibilities. Hello, Mara. Welcome. And Carolyn. Yeah, great. Thank you for coming. So that's why we're here tonight. We have the print version and the Kindle version on Amazon. And there is a bonus audio.
Yeah, everybody that buys that,
Yes.
in the back of the book, if you haven't gotten the book yet, in the back of the book, there's a link that you go to where you get a bonus audio.
Yes. Let's see. Turn the page off.
Yeah.
And it's called Making Love Last. What is it? Making Love Last, creating your vision for lasting love.
Yeah.
And that is a bonus audio for you. So we're really happy that you joined our celebration. We're real excited.
We were trying to think of what we were going to do for this, and here in a minute, actually, we're going to do a little bit of a reading, but also one of the things we're going to talk about is, and this was hard. We posed the question to each other last night, and I don't even know if we should have done this, but what's your favorite chapter in the book? I mean, that's like trying to say which one of your children is your favorite.
Or your dogs.
Yeah. Whatever.
If you're a dog person,
Yeah. So that was hard. That was hard.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about that, and I kind of surprised myself on the one I chose as,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I surprised myself.
All right. Well, we're going to start. You all know who we are, but we're going to introduce ourselves. We're Susie and Otto Collins from susieandotto.com. And we've been writing books and doing podcasts and writing articles and having workshops and coaching people since 1999. So we've been doing this a very long time. And this
I just want to add something.
You can add something.
So it's not just writing books and doing coaching and sharing podcasts and all that kind of stuff. But since 1999, I think it's been our vision simply to share more love with the world, to wake people up to the possibilities. That's one of the reasons we wrote this book, is to show people there's so much more on offer than you can see. That's what the kind of the vision we started with when we just started doing a talk here and there way back in 1999. That kind of tells you how old we are, but yeah, that's kind of what happened when we first started.
Yeah, I wanted to say that this has been a long time in the making. For years, we've wanted to write a book about love. And
we've written a lot of books about relationships.
Yeah, but it just didn't quite happen, didn't quite gel. So this in the last 8 months, 9 months, this is what came from it. And so we're really happy that you're here to celebrate with us and that we got this done. we thought we'd read the invitation.
The invitation is the first. I can't call it the chapter, but the only thing we can call it is I would call it the invitation, and it's the very first thing in the book. And it, as you're going to hear, as Susie and I read this, you really do get the sense of this is an invitation that we're offering. And so I'm going to start out. I'll read the first part. Susie's going to read the second part. Are we going to go to the other view?
We can,
Yeah, let's do that.
but it shows Beth.
Yeah, or you can, or go back to the other view. That's fine. The choice for love in every moment. You have a choice in every moment. That choice determines everything about every relationship, every interaction you have with another person, how much or how little you connect with other people, and how much love you have in your life. And this choice is something that is so simple and so profound that you might never see it, and its potential for awakening more love and possibilities in your relationships and life. The choice is simply this: will you open as love in this moment and allow new possibilities to appear in fresh, new ways for you? Or will you close your heart, mind, and soul and allow the fears, doubts, insecurities, and negative stories you believe to run the show and cut off the flow of love, possibilities, and miracles in your life? The thoughts that you and any of us believe can take you away from love and possibilities. It happens so quickly, so innocently, and with such certainty that you don't realize that you're simply caught up in believing a thought in the moment that has temporarily hijacked your thinking. That thinking we're talking about is the same thinking that led you to shut down and wall yourself off in big and small ways. That thinking led you to believe that this is your best move to help you get what you want from love and life. And that couldn't be more wrong. Instead, opening instead of closing, finding kindness instead of anger, discovering love instead of fear, and creating passion instead of boredom always comes down to what you are seeing and making real in this and every moment. What if you realize that all that's ever going on for you and every single one of us is that you're living in each moment from the experience of the thoughts you believe and make real? And it's a choice. This book is our loving invitation to help you open to more love than you ever thought possible and to continue to nourish it. Our invitation to you about love is this: don't wait. Don't wait for that other person to open their heart first. You go first. If they won't or can't open their heart just yet, you open your heart first. You can never know what pain the other person is going through, what story they're holding on to that's causing them to act like they are, or why they can't find the courage to open first. You can decide that opening your heart and keeping it open is more important than keeping it closed and shutting out love.
This isn't a contest of wills to see who can outlast the other, shut down love the longest. You never want to shut down your heart and put up a force field just to prove a point, make them pay, or show them how wrong they are. The two of us have played that game and nobody wins. The goal in every relationship you find yourself in is to connect your hearts, love deeper, and continue to do that over and over again until God or the Great Spirit says time's up. Decide that love is worth it and always choose love over fear, doubt, and separation. Don't wait. Consciously decide to hold nothing back. Bring all of you. Start now by reading this book and read it about you. You can read it from cover to cover or skip around and randomly choosing the ideas and topics that resonate with you. However you choose. Our suggestion is to read it with an open heart and open mind. This was a collaboration of love, with some chapters written solely by Otto, some by Susie, and others together to give you, the reader, a deeper experience of how to expand your vision of what's possible. You'll also notice that we've not included a question or suggestion to focus on at the end of each chapter. This is on purpose, so that you're free to focus on whatever holds the greatest possibility for you inside that particular chapter. This book is for you. What we can tell you about love and possibilities is this. All you need is a small crack in the doorway of your heart to be able to let the light of love enter your life in deeper and more profound ways. All you need to experience true love miracles and have them show up in your life on a regular basis is a willingness to allow them in your daily life, as well as willingness to both look for them as you go about your day and the eyes to notice them when they do show up. That's our sincere wish for you. Blessings and love to you. Susie and Otto Collins.
And that is the invitation.
Yeah, I was laughing because we kind of went through this tonight. It was one of us was in a bad mood.
Yeah, one of us said
overwhelmed.
had a challenging day, a challenging week.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then,
not going to say which one.
of course not. And you show up as love. You continue to open.
And when you don't, you come back.
Yeah.
You just okay. All right. I was not at my best self. I'm just coming back. Yeah. So what's your favorite chapter, Otto?
My favorite chapter, and this surprised me a little bit. Yeah, I want to see the book. My favorite chapter, and I thought it was going to be something else, but my favorite chapter is a chapter that is called Vulnerability is a Superpower. Just think about that for a second. Because most people think about vulnerability as, yeah, I'm vulnerable. I'm willing to be vulnerable, but then still, we all hold back. We all hold back that part of ourselves. But to think about the idea as vulnerability being a superpower, it's like, wow. It's like, it's so radically different to think about that idea as like a superpower, like a Marvel movie or something, like one of those characters that have superpowers. As a possibility.
Wear your cape with a V on it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As a possibility, I mean, the thing that I love about this chapter and why I think it's at least in this moment, they could change tomorrow, but in this moment, it's my favorite. I mean, I like all of them. There's 38 chapters in the book, but vulnerability and really being willing to embrace that. It's so different. And, we come in and out of this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I do it. We all do it. But just to really see a little bit deeper.
Because of connection. Because it allows connection.
It does allow connection. Mm-hmm. And there's in the willingness to allow yourself to be vulnerable, because that's where the connection, that's one of the places mm-hmm. where true connection is created. We mentioned it, or we actually read about that in the first part of the invitation, mm-hmm. where we were talking about you go first. And that's a lot of times when we're talking about vulnerability, lot of times you got to be vulnerable first.
Mhm.
And that can be hard.
Yeah.
But the payoffs and the rewards,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I of course I liked a lot of it. I mean, I like my chapter that I wrote, first person to be honest with. Um, I loved your chapter, relax harder.
Yeah, relax harder. What a
Yeah.
what a
Yeah.
great chapter.
But what struck me today when I thought about it was say yes to you, that chapter, because that's a lot. That's very difficult for a lot of us to come to terms with, is saying yes to you and what that means. That might mean a loving no. I talked with somebody today, a coaching client, about boundaries and how boundaries can be loving and honesty. Then resentment doesn't build. So I think I worked really hard on myself to say yes to me, and I'm still learning a lot about what is a yes to me. Is it that I take some time and just read the mysteries that I love? Is it that just having a good time drinking coffee or going to lunch with a friend? And it's saying yes to me, taking a walk in the woods and trees. What does saying yes to you mean? And to me, this was a wonderful concept. And I have to say, we tell a lot of great stories in here. I think they're great.
I'm just curious, would you
Yeah.
speak just a little more about the other part of that, the no part, where you're saying that saying yes to you might be in saying no? Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah. I think a no is really hard for a lot of us. The person I talked to today, she didn't want to be impolite, so she said she did say a no, but had to explain and on and on and on about why she was saying no. And and I said, how about just saying a loving no? At this time, it's a no. And then let it drop. And that's loving yourself to me. And not always easy to learn, but in the end, saying a loving no is so much kinder to the other person, because then you're not resentful. How many of you have done things, agreed to things, and you got resentful because you really didn't?
I'll start raising my hands right here.
Yeah, you really didn't want to do it. Yeah. So that's a big one for a lot of us. So, as you can see, we hit the topics that were alive for us and for a lot of people. What if game that we talk about, and taming the monsters in your head, holding grudges. What's scary? Saying what's scary.
That's scary. That can be scary for people.
So anyway, those were mine. My thoughts.
One of the things that we wanted to talk about is, because one of the questions that we've gotten as we've gone through this process of writing this book and kind of putting it out into the world is, we've had some people ask us, well, why are you calling this the Book of Possibilities? I mean, it's a book about love.
Mm-hmm.
So when I tune into that question of why we're calling it a book of possibilities, because possibilities, especially around love, is something that most of us don't see. It's like we're in this room with no doors in the room. And, we've got these four walls around us, and what we see is what we see, and we can't see outside the room. And the reason that we wanted to write a book about possibilities as it pertained to love was we wanted to be that catalyst that came along and, like sawed a doorway out of one of those walls for people.
Or people.
No, I want doorways.
Oh.
I want big doorways. I don't want a peephole. Come on.
A crack.
You can start with a crack. I want a doorway.
Okay, you get a doorway.
Okay, I get a doorway.
Yeah.
You get a doorway, and you get a doorway. You can have your peephole if you want. But the whole idea of that there can be more on offer. And so there were a lot of people that were early readers of this book that gave us feedback that
some of them on this call.
Yeah, some on in this meeting, and there's others that were all over the world, and I'm just really struck by how they said, and one woman talked about, you make it sound so simple, and it's like, well, it is simple. It's not always simple in the moment, but the idea, the possibilities to come back to. You mentioned that a moment ago. Is to come back to, you lose it, you come back to it, but you can never truly lose it because love is always here. That's one of the chapters in the book, by the way, is love is always here.
Yeah. And I'm reminded of, did anybody read Michael Singer? His books,
The Untethered Soul.
But he talks about us building these walls around ourselves and these houses, and we don't look outside. We're in these thought domes because we don't we just keep carrying the same thoughts over and over, and that's ruling our lives. And so his whole thing is looking outside of that, allowing those walls to kind of disappear, and looking outside at possibilities of, it can be possible. I mean, how many of us have had one idea, and like when Otto and I do remodeling projects, I won't even say remodeling, maybe fix-it projects. It's been hairy in the past, but we're getting better. But I think that we've each had our idea about how something should go, how some repair or something should go, and neither one would stop and listen. So finally, then, maybe there's a third way. Maybe there's a third way.
There's that thing you're talking about again, that possibility.
Yeah. And it's looking beyond our preconceived ideas, I think. So that's what we tried to capture with this.
You're pointing to one of the other things that we wanted to talk about, which is the blocks to big fat love.
Yeah, our stories.
Our stories. Our conditioning certainly can play into that, but when we get stuck in a story about anytime you have an idea about this is the way it is, you're in a story. Anytime this is the way it is, you just automatically know you're in a story. And that's one of the blocks. Another big block that is he or she would never. They would never. I could never.
Making assumptions about how somebody else is going to be.
Or about the possibilities.
Right.
When I think about this, I could never. Well, the thing that could come after the I could never is, well, I could never ask them how they felt about something, that was, maybe something that was a little bit of a conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But what if it was truly, I mean, for some people, it's a mind-blowing idea to really stop and invite the other person that they're in relationship with, not just intimate relationships, but any of your relationships, of invite them into a conversation about how you'd like to be in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. How you'd like to communicate.
And then where that kind of gets, off the rails a little bit is when you start making all kind of assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that. Yeah.
We all have.
We all have.
Yeah.
But to see and to recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any blocks to big love? And it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be any relationship. Can you think of any that we haven't covered that kind of has stymied you?
Yeah. How would you like
Mara?
How would you like them to respond?
Mara raised her hand.
Okay.
So, I can think of a block which is past relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that can be big. Because so often we think of these past relationships as, well, that's the way it's going to be in the future, of the stuff that happened, of, okay, this happened, and so that means that this is going to happen again. And it could also mean that person's like this, so the other person that I'm in a relationship with, well, they're going to be like that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Mara, that we all carry that with us.
Yeah.
Well, he acted this way, my previous partner. Now, this I'm going to attribute that with this partner.
I think about that with kids too.
Yeah.
People have one child and then they start trying to be the same way with another child. And it's like, wait, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Maureen. You got to unmute yourself.
So going a little further to what Mara was saying, I think there's also blocks in your past childhood and observing the relationships in your family as a younger person, and thinking that, okay, this is how it was in our house. So does that mean, it's often quite surprising, later in life that you find out, oh, not everybody had the same family dynamic that maybe I had.
Yeah, it can be a big awakening, right? Oh, wait, it's not that way in every household.
Yes, exactly. And in good ways and in bad ways as well.
Communication. I think what I see when I coach people is that communication patterns in different families are learned, and then they carry those over into their relationships, all of their relationships, but their intimate relationships. And then, wait a minute, why doesn't he understand me? Why, when the communication patterns just aren't the same, you're not speaking the same language, so to speak. And the only thing you can do then is just stop and recognize, oh, we are different. So tell me how you'd like to communicate, and I'll tell you, and let's find a way that we can communicate together. Good, thanks.
Yeah, that's one of the places that really gets interesting in relationship, is when we start making assumptions that people are the way we think that they are. And then when we find out that they're not, then we start wanting to change them.
How many of you wanted to change somebody in your life?
Yeah.
A parent, a partner,
a child. Yeah, somebody. Yeah. To to want to change them, I mean, that's huge.
Mhm.
And to see that, well, maybe it might not be necessary. Maybe
You can love them anyway.
you can love them anyway. One of the biggest teachers in my life about growing in love and in relationship and in my personal growth has been my relationship with my mother. And my mother, who by my description is a world champion guilt thrower and manipulator, and to show up with love and to show up in ways to whereas she doesn't need to try any of her tactics to get what she wants, and where I don't play that game.
And you learned in the last couple of years, really.
It's been a process.
Yeah.
It's been a process. And to really show up in new ways, in more loving ways. And one of the things I've done a lot, especially in that relationship, has been humor. And a lot of times we start having conflict with people, and humor is the first thing that goes. Yeah.
And not at the expense of somebody, but just, Maureen.
Well, when you were talking about the manipulation, I was thinking of situations where someone says to you, if you really loved me, then you would do this. And personally, when someone says that to me, I say, like, yeah, this is a manipulation right off the bat here. So, how do you handling that can be difficult.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's real good.
That's a real good one. And because
sounds like your mother.
In some ways. Some ways. But if you really stop and you kind of jump out of your own skin for a moment, and you truly look at it from somebody else's perspective, you can see why they may be reacting or responding or thinking in that way. And it doesn't mean that you have to play. And I might even be tempted to say something like, I can see how you might feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just, again, Susie, you were talking earlier about what's a yes and what's a no for you. And
that's a no for me.
Yeah.
I love you and not being sucked into the dance, the manipulation dance.
Actually, there's a great story that was, we were talking about my mother, but there's a story that actually I think speaks to this. I'll never forget the day I was driving in my car, and my mother, who lives about 2 hours away from me, she loves it when I come to visit, and she doesn't love it when I don't. And so I'm talking to her on the phone, and I'm in my car one day. I'll never forget this. And so she says to me, "I'd really love to see you." And she says, "Well, would you love to see me too?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to see you." And she says, "Oh, great. That means you're coming down to see me." And I'm like, "No, it doesn't mean that. But I still would like to see you."
Well, and she said, I think in the same conversation, it's been so long. I haven't seen you in so long. And normally Otto would say, I was just down there, 3 weeks ago. And why isn't that enough? And there'd be an argument. But this time it was like,
I didn't play.
No, he just said, oh, yeah, I can see from your point of view that it would have been a long time. And here's when I can come down. And it dissipated the whole thing.
So it changes the whole dance.
Yeah.
The whole dynamic changes when you do that.
Because people a lot of times just want to be heard, but then that doesn't mean that you have to be sucked into what they want.
Yeah. Yeah. Did that answer your question, Maureen? Was that helpful?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
great. Anybody else have any obstacles or
Or even just questions about
Yeah.
big fat love. Doesn't have to be any
Yeah,
giant obstacle.
It's got one.
Yeah.
Well, I really love the invitation, and the you go first thing I thought was real powerful. And the other thing that I wanted to say that I really loved about what you've said so far is that what I heard is that you didn't have to justify your decisions.
Right.
But my question is, I'm I'm requesting that you say more about coming back. I don't understand precisely what you mean. Coming back to what? Coming back to, could you speak more about that, please?
I can speak. You can speak. I'll start by saying that love is who we are. And we get off kilter. We forget who we are.
We get grouchy.
Well, that's one of the ways that it shows up. That's not the only way that it shows up.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
But it's one way.
It's one really big way. And so when you go out of that, like there are moments when you don't see that. You don't see that love is who you are, and you don't see that love is who that other person is, because maybe in that moment they may not be showing up as this bright, shiny light of love that they really are, that they happen to have forgotten in the moment. But to have that idea that this is who I am and this is who they are. And, we're never completely out of that feeling of love all the time. We're coming in and out of that all the time. And the more conscious we are of, oh, I'm just caught up in a loop of thinking. I'm caught up in bringing some horrible thing from my past into the present moment. Oh, I'm not seeing myself in the best light here. And then you just bring yourself back. You bring yourself back to this moment, and you bring yourself back to the truth of who you are, the truth that never changes. And it's so easy to forget that. You're having a bad week, you're having a bad month, you're having a bad day, whatever. You forget that. You lose sight of that. And then you remember. There's a term for this I use sometimes when it relates to like spiritual. I think we're all connected to spirit deeply, and remembering who we truly are. I call it spiritual amnesia. And the spiritual amnesia is that we forget who we are, and then we remember, and we forget who we are, and we remember. It's like this amnesia that takes us over. And so pretty soon, you start remembering more of the time who you truly are. You forget less and you remember more. And then you remember more and you remember more. And then those times when you're not tuning into the love that you really are and the love that they really are, that becomes less and less.
And for me, the big thing is remembering I have choice, because so often when we're in that circle of not feeling worthy, not, just kind of overwhelmed, or whatever the feeling is that takes us away from love, if I can get a little crack and remember, oh, I have a choice here. I can raise my vibration by having appreciation for something, anything, the trees outside, the summer, the heat, the rain, the whatever. If I can get switch myself and make that choice of appreciating something, someone, appreciating myself, then that brings me back. That brings me into a higher vibration.
And what you're pointing to is that higher vibration. That's who you are.
Yeah.
That's at your nature. That's who you are. That's who we all are.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's helpful. And I really love the fact that you pointed out it could be something instead of like the misunderstanding you're having, but you could focus on like the nature outside or something, and that would just change your vibration or change your
Yes.
energy or give you a choice to make it really change in your moment. So thanks for that. That was really nice. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
And also to notice that, or also to have the awareness and the knowing that if you simply wait, your story and your thinking about something always changes. You don't have to do anything to have your thinking that you habitually think it changes on its own. Then you have the option and the choice not to latch onto it again. But your thinking's always fluid and flexible.
Well, and I wrote about this the other day that I was caught up in trying to do something. I can't remember, something on the computer, and wasn't working. I was trying to upload the file and it wasn't. Oh, I know, it was the bonus file that we're making love last. I was trying to upload it, and it wouldn't upload. And it's like, I've done this a million times and what doesn't work. So I was just like this. And finally, because I kept doing the same things over and over. Can you relate? Whether it's trying to solve a relationship problem or a computer problem or a whatever problem, do the same things over and over and over. And guess what? They don't work. They work the same way they did the last time.
Yeah.
So I just said, oh, I'm just going to give up for today and I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
I came back and the next day I had this idea. Oh, just put it in a bucket. It was Amazon S3, I think. Just put it in a bucket you've already made years ago that works. And guess what? It worked.
Yeah.
So where did that insight come from? It came from me calming down and not being so, overwhelmed by it. And it came from inside. It came from the wisdom that's flowing through me that I can just allow it to come, the idea that, oh, that's a new idea. Even though it's an old solution, it's a new idea. So I think that's, and we all go through this, and we all can just settle and calm. And then challenges, solutions to challenges do come.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything? I
Anything
love our discussion.
Yeah, anything that's percolating about big fat love or anything else. We'll tackle anything tonight. We're feeling bold and adventurous.
As you were talking earlier, I thought about, I grew up in a very, very strict household, and it was black and white. That was that. But when it came to my own kids, as my husband reminded, let them negotiate if it makes sense. And it helped them and us, and they grew up differently other than I. And we negotiate many a times.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful, Carolyn, because
Yeah.
you do bring, like, especially the black and white thinking from previous relationships into these, and then you start raising your kids that way until somebody puts a stop to it.
Yeah.
And my kids do that with their kids now. So
Yeah.
it's kind of good.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anybody else have
Questions about big fat love or anything else?
comments?
Yeah. Any comments about anything we've talked about tonight or
Yeah.
anything?
Mara?
Yeah, Otto, when you talked about your favorite chapter for tonight being vulnerability,
Yeah.
you ended with a statement th- saying, it's worth the payoffs and the rewards.
Yeah.
So can you talk more about what the rewards of being vulnerable are?
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a great question, because the rewards of not just allowing yourself to be vulnerable, because see, that's where people think is, I'm going to allow myself to be vulnerable. But what if it was even better than allowing yourself? Is this was a creation of yours, of that this is okay. And so the payoffs for being vulnerable are, if there's one thing that people really want from us, I believe, is they want connection. They want love, and they want to connect with us. And if we don't allow ourselves to truly be vulnerable, the people in our lives don't feel us. If you really want to connect with people, at least this is what I've found, is you have to be willing to be vulnerable. And if you want that other person to be vulnerable with you, again, like we talked about in the invitation, it's, you got to go first. And that's really right at the heart of vulnerability, is being willing to open yourself and share things in a way that might be uncomfortable, things that you might want to stay hidden, or things that other people may not want to hear. But the key about vulnerability, like when you're speaking to someone, at least what I've found is, how can you be vulnerable and still show up as love for the other person and show up as love for yourself? Wow.
Yeah, Maureen.
So the comment that I have on that, the vulnerability part, is that by being vulnerable and open, you're leaving yourself open to hurt. So how do you deal with a situation where, yeah, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to go first. I'm going to do this, and I am slapped and tossed to the curb. Then how do I pick myself up and do that again?
Great question. Number one, both of them are. And you pick and choose. If someone is if someone doesn't feel safe to you, and you don't particularly want a close connection with, then be, to me, it's be open, but you don't have to bare your soul. It doesn't have to be like that.
I was speaking figuratively about being kicked to the curb, not necessarily.
No, I
literally.
know, but if somebody, are you talking about like an intimate partner?
I'm talking about in any relationship. You're laying yourself open, and that's fine. I'd say most of the times that's fine. It works out very well. But on the other hand, it can hurt. It can feel like, well, wait a minute, I was vulnerable. I tried to express this with whoever, and things did not quite work out the way that I thought they might. Then so I've got to have the personal strength then to say, okay, I'm going to go and do this again anyway, that kind of thing. That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah. And like I say, choose the person that you're going to be vulnerable with carefully and depend on the degree of vulnerability. That's my ideas. I mean, that's what I think. And when you share yourself, we'd all love to have acceptance, and we'd all love to, have somebody say, oh, thank you for sharing that with me, blah, blah, blah. But that may not happen. And you have to have enough love for yourself to say, well, I did share myself in that way. And I don't necessarily have to close myself off to everybody or the next time, but I can't assume that other person is going to accept what I say. I mean, that is the truth of it. But sometimes it is worth it. And sometimes it's especially, I mean, I've had coaching clients who have been accused of being controlling and heady and, all kinds of things, when actually when she just was honest and vulnerable and said, really, I'm fearful about this. And the other person really heard it. And so, you have to use your best judgment here. That's my take on it. And really trust in your inner wisdom.
About vulnerability, part of this is testing for the willingness on the other person's part to feel it, to allow it. But also, there are ways that you can see, am I willing to be vulnerable here? So I might, there are times with people in my life where I might even say to them, there's something that's really important to me that I wanted to share. Would it be okay if I shared something with you?
And getting permission first.
Yeah, of getting permission first. And being in a space of connection before you're just blurting out the thing that you want.
Listen,
this is really important that you hear me right now. But of really sinking down into the place where you can allow the vulnerability to spring to come forth, and that place where they can connect with it as well. And that comes from, literally, that's the whole idea of the invitation. Because most people get really jaded by trying to be vulnerable at times when it isn't wise to be vulnerable. Yeah. And they think that is the
caution, the stop sign.
They think that, well, this means I can't be vulnerable anytime.
Yeah.
When a lot of times what happens is we think that in the times when it's not wise to be vulnerable, we think that that's all the time. And so we attach to, well, I can't be vulnerable with that person. Well, you can, but not in moments like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can, but not in moments like this either. And, there's an invitation that can happen, an invitation between two people. And there's also an invitation, on certain topics, certain subjects, where you can weave this dance between certain things that they may allow vulnerability in, that can go into other topics. When one of our teachers in something that's called the Three Principles, Sid Banks talked about always look to the feeling. Always look to the feeling. Because when you're really struggling with vulnerability, you're not in the feeling. You're in the thinking, you're in the anxiety, you're in the angst, but you're not in the feeling.
Thanks. Thanks for great questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else percolating from anyone?
Jim?
Yeah, the subject matter is phenomenal. I mean, both of you put your heart and souls into it. But how much didn't get into the book?
Oh.
A lot. A lot. A lot didn't get in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah, this we just had to say, okay.
There were times where you get to a certain place and you say, okay, that's it. Nothing else gets in.
And somebody said, did you cover this about children and you know, a busy, when you have busy lives and can't connect and you got kids? No.
Because that was at the point where it's like we got to land the plane here, so
Well, but we do talk about, making time
and busyness and yeah, there was a whole chapter. I do want to talk about this because Jim, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Because there was a whole chapter that didn't get in that where we were going to talk about one of the things that's missing from about big fat love is if you only focused on and think about this of anything in your life, the things that really that really matter, that you place your time and attention on. So we were going to do a whole chapter on time and attention, and that ended up not making it in the book because we felt like that we covered that, but not specifically those two words, time and attention. But time and attention is so huge that, and this is the same way with any subject, if you want to be great, I'll make up something. Let's say you wanted to be a great teacher of something. You would want to put time and attention into that. If you did concrete work, time and attention, that's the magic. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Mary says, congratulations on the launch of your new book, Susie and Otto. Looking forward to consuming the chapters. Yes. Nancy says, yes, congratulations on the book. Love you both so much. Oh, and just so appreciate all of you. Does anybody have anything? We've got a contest.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
my
forgot
goodness,
about.
before
We said we were going to do a
stop
giveaway.
it.
All right. Into the chat, numbers between 1 and 100. We may do way more than this, but certainly for everybody, we'll just do it for everybody that showed up. Signed copies of the book. Everybody gets signed copies of the book.
Wow. Oh.
How about that?
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah, if you have the book already, we'll sign those. If you don't have them, we'll do them.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
We're not having a contest.
And
So
we
we're not
can't wait to get
We
to
have a
your
contest
next-
about something
Put
else.
the numbers in?
What?
Are we still putting the numbers in?
No, we're going to give everybody.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
there's not that many people here.
Thank
And
you.
let's see here. Marianne, Suzanne, Donald, and Sandra. Be sure and contact us later with your contact info so that we can let's do it.
All right.
It'll be fun. We'll do signed copies for everybody.
You're feeling very magnanimous, right?
I am.
All
Why
right.
not?
All right. Let me see if I have everybody. Donna, Maureen, Mary.
Yeah. Any other questions while Susie's calculating our our sending out of the books. Any other comments, questions? We appreciate you all for showing up. This is totally fabulous.
Otto, can you still learn all of this and apply it after you're 80?
Oh,
Or maybe even when you're 90 or 100.
Oh,
yes.
thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
goodness.
absolutely.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
cute.
and what's so awesome about about the question that you just asked is it's so fascinating to see how people see things like age, as an example. I have people that come and enter my world that one person, I had a person say to me that I'm 61 and it's over for me. Not just about relationships, but like their life was on a decline. And there are other people in my world that I know that at 61, they're just getting good started. And so it's all perspective, it's all choice, it's all a question about what you're going to choose. And again, what you're going to focus on, what you're going to put your time and attention on, and also the belief that you're going to create your life from. Because your life, there's never a time when you're not creating. And so
Are you consciously creating?
that's the question. That's the rub, is if there's never a time when you're not creating, then what if you started to choose your creations? And your creations can be anything from a thought to a career to how you're going to show up in a given moment. It can be anything.
A romantic entanglement?
Yeah. Yeah, it can be anything. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Mary.
Love those romantic
Yeah,
entanglements.
yeah, it's totally fabulous.
Yes, wonderful. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining in our celebration and just
Thank you. Thank
you
you.
know, it's just really important to celebrate these little milestones. We say little, but and it's important to have friends like you all who took your time and came tonight. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Blessings of love to you.
Blessings.
And we'll talk to you again soon. All right.
Thank you.